Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me tonight on episode 22, season 4 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live Wednesdays on Facebook throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, it was a shorter round with some entertaining matches, but those bloody rabbits ruined our multi. How are you, and what did you think of the round?
I'm well, thanks, Brad. Yeah, I enjoyed the shortened round, other than South Sydney ruining our multi, as one team always tends to do every weekend. So we go again this week.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we can lose more of Paul's money this week. We'll do our best. But while we're here live on Wednesdays at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those places. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 19 up, down, and tips. We'll then answer some questions from you guys as well. Some questions we're prepared for each other. We'll then preview round 20 and make our picks before ending the night with a recap of Super League. And to see Jacko's here and talking about the multi, I thought this one was a goer. We only had 3 in it. So as you can see there by the picture Paul's put up, but it is what it is. So we may as well get into it, Richie, but remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show. Been a bit busy this week, so I don't have a lot of news, but I've pulled a few good ones. But Josh Reynolds has announced his immediate retirement from professional rugby league. He the news came out that he gave up his top 30 spot last week so the Bulldogs could sign Toby Sexton. Reynolds' final game will be this Saturday in New South Wales Cup. What's your thoughts on the announcement?
Pretty selfless decision to give up a spot for an incoming half, which, if you look at the weekend just gone, I think it's quite evident they really need half to guide them around the field. So, the ultimate sacrifice from a Bulldog through and through. So wish him all the best in his retirement. There was a stage there in the early 2010s where, he was one of the really good halves running around in the game. Just wish him all the best in retirement.
Yeah, and I'm sure there was probably a nice little cherry dangled to help him with this decision. So I'm sure he's got a job with the Bulldogs for as long as he wants it. But he's done a lot. There's been a lot of ups and downs for him, but he got to go back to the Dogs, which is where his heart is, and got to at least play a couple of first grade games this year too. So I think all in all, if you're weighing it up, you're a guy that's on the way out and a young up and comer that just needs a chance. It was the right decision for everyone, but it takes a big man to make that decision as well. So full credit to him for that, and hopefully he has a nice cussy job with them for a little while. Next bit of news, we did it. We survived the first week of the RLPA media blackout. Still no progress, but I'm probably completely wrong, but the longer it goes and the more I'm seeing, the more I'm siding with the NRL. In my own personal opinion, I feel like I think some of the players are overreaching, Richie, in my personal opinion, with some of the stuff. Like, I've read through a lot of the demands they've got, and I can see both sides, but like, there were one thing they don't like is the NRL keeping their medical records, sorry. But if you want them to pay for your medical bills when you've retired, you kind of need to keep a track record of what's wrong with a player. I don't get it. And they kind of want a say in everything the NRL does, which it's hard enough now, I think, to get the NRL to actually do stuff. So if you're going to have them have to do something and then stop, ask permission, and then keep going, it doesn't seem like a way to run a business, which is what the NRL is, in my opinion. But
well, hopefully they can reach common ground sooner rather than later. I switched on a lot of the games right at kickoff time this weekend, so I didn't notice the media blackout too much. maybe a little bit post-match, but yeah, hopefully we get resolution sometime soon.
Yeah, and Jacko's kind of mentioned saying for him, it's just a move from the RLPA for more power within league, and they're overstepping their role. Yeah, I think I kind of covered that last week, whereas I felt the players have so much more control in the NRL than many other sports around. And I know there's talk about they don't want extra games put in because the NRL wants to increase the games and increase the teams, and I get that, but then at the same note, a lot of those players saying like we don't want to have more games are playing an Origin on Wednesday night and 2 days later playing for their club. So it's okay then because it's Origin, but I think once they expand the teams, I think you could still just make the draw better. Like you've got 26 rounds, you bring in 20 teams, you play everyone once, and then have a couple of like the doubles for your big games. So like each club. So you can still work around, but I don't know how it's going to work. But continuing on with that, to support the media blackout, it's believed the NRLW players will boycott their season launch next week. And the NRL players have advised they may boycott NRL matches if things don't get resolved. I think they're bad takes on both sides. I don't see players stepping out of the way when they know they're in contention.
Yeah.
So like you're not going to see like a Penrith or a Broncos or that have all their players stand down to get their point across when they know that you win a premiership, you get prize money, right?
Yeah.
So, and the NRLW not wanting to launch that, part of this thing in all these agreements is the RLPA wants the women's game to stand on its own. If you're not promoting, if you're not there promoting it, how's it going to stand on its own? But I don't know. You go.
I think it's a bit of a silly. Boycotting games won't do anyone any good, really, will it? And surely a lot of these players won't want to give up their spots. But yeah, we shall see. I don't think it would come to that.
Yeah. So we'll keep. I'm sure this is going to be an ongoing thing for the next couple of weeks, for as long as it goes on. I guess how this has been going on since before the season kicked off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they're going to do boycotting games, then it has to be one out, all out, right? You can't. If it's one or two players in a squad, it's not going to work. But it has to be the whole lot, and basically get cancelled games.
Yeah, and I think the big fear from the players is that it breaches their contract, which means a team can or a club could just get rid of them. So the only ones that would be willing to do it would be the ones that you're not going to get rid of.
Well, again, that comes down to what does the players' union say? The players' union says, right, if you get rid of anybody, then that's it. The competition's over until you reinstate them. So the players' union can make whilst they can be breaching contract, the players' union can have try and do anyway.
But like Simon said, in the long run, the women's games, no matter what sport, need to stand on its own 2 feet. It does. It does need to. I believe they still need to help them launch it, but if the players aren't there backing it, like on the media day to promote it, they're already swimming backwards. So the players need to really do their part if they actually want the money coming in from the sport. You got to promote it, right?
Yeah, true. But you got to also remember that the boys did part of the contract negotiation at the beginning of the year. The heads-up agreement, what they held out for, part of it was increased money towards the women players. So if the boys are going to do that for the girls, and the girls are going to back the boys as well in these kind of disputes. Yeah,
but we'll just have to wait and see what's happening with that. I'm sure we'll get more info to talk about next week. So next bit, Wayne Bennett has come out in support of the NRL bringing a State of Origin match to New Zealand, and the NRL open at looking at the option around 2027. What's your take on that? I know we've spoken about it in the past, but I did see a decent argument against it. So I want to see it because I'm selfish, but what's your thoughts on it, Rich?
Yeah, I'd love to see it, like you, from a selfish point of view. always wanted to go to a State of Origin match. Never had the opportunity, but it would make it a heck of a lot easier hosted here. What was that decent argument you heard against it?
Oh, because a lot of the talk around it was, you get Origin here and all the kids want to see it and they want to play rugby league. But someone made a comment saying all those kids will want, who's to say they're not going to go, no, we want to play Origin. And then more Kiwis that are playing Origin instead of playing for the Kiwis.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a good argument too. If you're sitting there and you're watching your heroes on the pitch and you go, I want to play for that team, then it could be. But I still want to see it though, because
kind of like I would like to see it as a one-off, but kind of like what Rob's put there in the chat. Would you want more Origin or more Test matches? If I had to choose between the two, I'd choose more Test matches. Hosted here in a heartbeat. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you ask me if I'm going to get the Kiwis playing Australia, Tonga, or England, one of those guys, instead of getting Origin game, I'm going to pick that as a Kiwi because, I enjoy Origin. I don't think it's anywhere near what it used to be, but I'm a Kiwi, so I'd rather see the Kiwis. But yeah, they still don't want to give us internationals, which is another thing in the NRL or the RLPA thing where they're against the international payments getting increased and stuff. But we can go into that on another week. Next bit, going on to Big Tino news. We talked about all the teams interested in him last week, Richie. The Storm are throwing their head in the ring, apparently, and they would like to see him come back.
They would.
There's a few teams after him now, but he's a marquee type of player. Who do you think, taking everything off the line, all the teams that are interested, do you see him leaving Titans, and what team you reckon he would go to?
A part of me would really like to see him and David Fafita stay at the Titans. I think they're building nicely. Their results haven't been consistent this year, but they do look a better side with 4 in there, and Fafita's looked a lot better. So I'd hate to see them, kind of back to square one, losing a couple of big marquee players. But yeah, a lot of teams will be lining up for Tino's services for sure. So as long as he doesn't pull on the Broncos colours. That would be. I wouldn't want to see that.
I'd like to see him stay at the Titans because I think, as much as I give them crap on this show, I think they have improved since he's been there.
Yeah.
And he's like the linchpin and the leader there, so it would set them backwards if he went. I don't know if he'd go back to Melbourne. I think if he did go, it would be somewhere new. Like everyone else, he ended up at the Roosters. But
if the rumours about Ben Hunt are true, and Ben Hunt winds up going there, and Tino and Fafita stay, they're looking really good from next year onwards, aren't they? They'd definitely be looking like a top 8 side, you'd think.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that type of stuff. I think in the clause, though, they've got a certain amount of dates. I think it's in either August or September where they've got to tell the team if they're going to leave or stay or something like that. It's weird. But kind of going on to that where he may end up, who knows. But New Dragons coach Shane Flanagan stated he's going to reshape the Dragons roster, bringing in 4 to 5 new players to freshen it up and change the culture. So maybe Big Tino, Big Tino, bring him in. It kind of, it's great to hear him say it. It's kind of stating the obvious. Half the team doesn't want to be there, so you're going to have to bring some in. I guess the biggest thing is going to be trying to get players in that can do that actually want to go. When they've let so many talented guys go. Like we've got one with the Warriors right now, Jackson Ford, who's done nothing but impress since he got here, and they had him there willing to do the work, and he came to us basically because he wasn't getting the opportunity. So I understand bringing 4 or 5 in, but I think they've got to look at, the outskirts of their roster that aren't getting opportunities and see, if there's any gold there. Probably not, because it's the Dragons and they're rubbish, but.
Well, you're right. It's almost stating the obvious, because you look at their roster up and down, they need change. So Shane Flanagan in itself is a good change, because he's a good, solid coach. Look at what Andrew Webster's done, almost by changing the culture within the whole team. He's turned us into a winning team without megastars in our team. There's a lot of battlers in our team, but with the right coach, right systems, and right attitude, you can turn that into a winning team.
Yeah, and he could do the job for them. Hopefully not for me, but I think he's definitely better than the coaching they've had recently. So, hopefully we get some news on that sooner rather than later, so we can talk about potential new players. But we'll move into the signings. The first one, Matt Lodge. He's now got a new team again, Richie. He is with Manly on a training trial for the rest of the year. He's actually going to be playing for the New South Wales Cup team this Sunday. So congrats, I guess, to Matt Lodge. It's kind of what he does every second year anyway. So how do you think he'll go at Manly?
Oh, I mean, he's a very good player when he's on. We all know that. Kind of what Rob said in the chat there, 3 clubs in 12 months. What does that tell you about him, though? Maybe he's not fitting into these cultures. I don't know, pure speculation. But if Manly get top of his game, Matt Lodge, then he adds something really good to their forward pack.
Yeah, and I guess I know a lot of people are looking at it and getting a bit concerned about the Isaac Moses effect. He's yet another player, and they seem to be getting a lot of his players in Manly now, which is a problem we saw at the Warriors and a few other clubs where he kind of has all his players in there and it kind of falls apart. So I think Manly are a bit sharper than that normally, but if you look at some of the players they've signed, it's interesting. But healthy addition to their roster, especially with Tommy Turbo out. They need a bit more experience, I guess, which I guess is something Lodge can provide. And Rob's also said Seabolt's also Moses, which is again the Warriors effect, because we had Kearney with Moses and all those players. So interesting times for them. But speaking of the Warriors, they announced 2 extensions. Wade Egan and Ali Leatawa have both extended until the end of 2025. Wade's is the normal contract extension, but Ali's is actually an upgrade into the top 30. What's your take on those? I think I'm being very happy with Egan and what we got to see from Ali in his 1 game. So I'm happy to see them continue.
Yeah, I'm very pleased, particularly with both of them, really. Wade Egan seems to just get better year on year. We saw it in the weekend, how dangerous he looked out of dummy half. And I think the way we're playing our new game plan, all our good hard line runners, it just makes him a really good running option. So I think he's been really strong. And obviously with young Ali Leatawa, we're only seeing the beginnings of something. We saw what he did in his debut. So I hope we could see a lot more of him, because he looks a pretty prodigious talent.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've said off show to you and to Ruin Hammer that I fully expect Ali to be a starting centre next year. Just from my wee glimpse, but with what they've got right now, I think he is better than what the Berries and the Valiers can offer. I think he offers more. But it's all coming off 1 game where the Warriors were really impressive. So it could be rose-tinted glasses there until we see him in a few more games. We'll have to wait and see. But the last signing was Lachlan Fitzgibbon from the Knights. He's leaving the club to join the Warrington Wolves in the Super League.
He's been a mainstay with the Knights for a while, so good on him for seeking an opportunity elsewhere. Yeah,
They had to let someone go so they
they
can give
do.
Tyson Frizzell more money
He's
to stay.
yeah, he is a good solid player, Lachlan Fitzgibbon, but yeah, wish him well in the Super League.
He'll crush it over there,
You'd
especially in a
think.
team like
Yeah.
Warrington. It's not like he's going to a struggling team.
Yeah.
He's going to a good team. So that was the signing. So we'll go into injuries. Only two. I know there was a few more. I've kind of just picked two out. Jimin Jolliffe from the Titans may miss a month due to a fractured hand. And Ryan Sutton was sent to hospital for scans after the head-high tackle we received from Tane Milne. But he's been cleared of a serious neck injury. No word on how long he'll spend on the sidelines. He's not named this week. But all they've said is that, any serious injuries he's avoided, which is great because it wasn't pretty to see.
Yeah, what did you make of that high tackle? It was kind of a weird one, hey, because it looked like the ref had cleared it initially, and until they were calling for a stretcher, and then they reevaluated after the fact.
I think it's similar to what we've seen with Murata Nakore, where it's just ill-timed aiming, and then you only notice it because of an injury, which I think is what the Rabbitohs coach said in the post-match.
Yeah.
We said it probably wouldn't have been looked at if he hadn't got injured, but it's not like he was Hollywooding. He was actually really hurt. So
he was, yeah.
It's not like he was trying to milk for a penalty. And yeah, it's tough, but Tane Milne's got a reputation. So
he does.
It is what it is. If it was, say, a Nathan Cleary or someone who is relatively squeaky clean, maybe it's not going to be punished as much. But yeah, still not a good tackle, and you don't want to see players get hurt in the neck. I winced a few times with Mitch Barnett and some of the tackles with his neck injuries.
Yeah,
it didn't look great, but thankfully he was okay. But that was all the injuries we had. So last one, we've already just talked about him, but Naughty Boy Corner. No bans this week, but there were 4 fines, including a $3,000 fine to Tane Milne for that high tackle. So it's his third one. I don't want to say, and it pretty much is third one in a row. Because I know he got one in the Warriors game.
yes.
This one, I think he got one the week before the Warriors. So yeah. I'm fair to say if he does another one this week, he'll get some time on the pine.
He's on thin ice.
Yeah. So that's all the news we had there. Probably the quickest we've done it in a while, Paul. So we may as well get into the shortened round of 19, starting with the first game, which was the Sharks defeating the Tigers 36-12, Richie.
Yeah, and like you say, shortened round. We're making great time here, so we must be rushing through for State of Origin or something. Sharks 36, West Tigers 12, 7 tries to 2. Sione Katoa grabbed a hat-trick. Sifa Talakai grabbed 2. Jesse Ramian and Nicholas Hines were the try scorers for the Sharks. Tommy Talau and Sean Bloor were the 2 try scorers for the West Tigers.
Yeah, and Paul just mentioned our shorter news section was 23 minutes long. I think last week we were on 44, 45 minutes on our news section. So it's half of it. We're works in progress.
I wasn't here to crack the whip.
Sharks, Tigers. The Sharks, they strolled home here, to be honest. But I did expect more out of them. I was kind of expecting a similar scoreline to what we saw happen to the Tigers the week before. Their attack still looked crisp and dangerous. They'll just need to work on their discipline. They had 9 penalties, I think, almost in this game. And they got a tough match this week. And if they are that ill-disciplined against the Warriors, they'll be in a bit of trouble. But what was your take on the Sharks?
Don't jinx us, Brad. A comfortable win in the end. At halftime, the game was far more competitive than I thought it might be. But the Sharks had enough firepower in the second half to do what they always do, put away a bottom 9 side with ease. That's what they do.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the poor old Tigers?
I thought they were pretty good in the first half. They just lacked the ability to put put their authority on games and ice games without the bulk of their starting spine. To be fair, even with them, they lack that ability as well. But yeah, it gets even harder without them.
Yeah, I kind of said the same. I thought they showed a lot of effort, but they just lack direction without Coruscant. I even forgot to mention guys like Adam Dwayhe. Dwayhe's how he says his name, right?
And Brooks.
Brooks. They were in that fight for the first half, but you just can't keep up, which is going to be a theme for a few other games in here. But yeah, hard to see them winning any more games this year, which I think I said last week as well. But who was your player to stand out?
Well, everybody knows on this show we love a big rampaging Tongan, so Silsifa Talakai. I very much enjoyed watching him.
So we should say he should really be Harrell 2.0, and Tafari should be Harrell 3.0. Yeah, he had a massive game, but I went with Nico again.
You always do.
Like I'm going to always go with Nico until he gets redeemed in Origin. But yeah, I thought he was a bit off on the boot. He missed more goals than he got, but I thought he was still instrumental in getting guys like Talakai into the situations where they could flourish. So
absolutely.
Yeah. When in doubt, always go Hines. Next game, Raiders defeating the Dragons 36-26.
Yeah, you would have been pleased here, Brad. This is the one I tipped for an upset too, and not quite, unfortunately. It was 6 tries to 5.
You're bloody close.
I wasn't far off. Jordan Rapana, Joey Tapane, Matty Tomoko with 2, Matt Frawley and Sebastian Chris were the try scorers for the Green Machine. 5 try scorers for the Dragons. Well, really only 2 try scorers 5 times. Revelawa with 3, Zach Lomax with 2.
Yeah, Raiders were strong in the first half. Matt Tomoko being a constant threat with the ball in hand. Very competitive side for 40 minutes. Unfortunately, the game goes for 80. And they almost let this game slip. They scored 6 tries, as you said. They scored 5 of them in the first half. And then they scored 1 in the final 10. They almost let this game go. This could have been a massive upset for the Dragons. I don't know how they're going to fix this performance. It's not like it's a new thing for the Raiders this year. But yeah, they need to get it sorted. If they want to get in there with the big boys at the end of the year, they need to play 80 minutes. And like Simon said, we nearly faded out of the game as usual. It's a massive concern. But the fact that they can play a good first 40 kind of helps them out a little bit. But yeah, I think you'd rather an average 80 than a really good half and a really bad half. But yeah, what's your take on the Raiders?
Well, they're still winning. That's the best thing for the Raiders and Raiders fans. I thought they were nearly flawless in the first half. They looked unstoppable. People like Matty Tomoko seem to be breaking the line at will. But yeah, obviously, as you just touched on, they did let the Dragons back into the match. And then they end up winning 12 and under. So I don't know, for whatever reason, the Raiders just don't. They're winning, but they don't seem to do big winning margins, even with a big head start.
See, TK's joined us tonight. Evening, TK. And your take on the mighty Dragons?
I thought they showed a lot better fight this week. A couple of their big game players stood up in the absence of Ben Hunt. Zach Lomax, Revelawa, both performed really well, obviously with multiple tries each, and that helped them back into the contest. But yeah, it's another end up being another close one that they've lost, and they've lost a lot of close ones this year.
Yeah, I thought they did look better this week. And hot take here, maybe Richie, maybe having a team without a completely over it Ben Hunt in it is actually better than forcing them to play. They looked more like they were interested in playing, where the last few weeks when Hunt's been out there as well, they've kind of looked like they're over everything. So maybe that's him being over it, maybe is seeping through to the rest of the players potentially. I don't know. But if they have more games like this, they might avoid the spoon. I really hope not.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Jacko's giving me crap about it. I will always go against the Dragons, so I
He
don't
will.
care.
Yeah.
But who was your player to stand out? I think we've already mentioned it a bit, and we've both picked the same guy.
Yeah, Matty Tomoko. I love watching him play. He seems to have gone to another level again this year, and I've picked him probably at least 2 or 3 times this season.
Same.
But yeah, he's just a barnstorming runner, really dangerous out on the edge most weeks. So yeah, Matty Tomoko.
I'm feeling he's a great player that must be homesick for New Zealand, surely. So just leave. Just
Wouldn't
leave
you
that.
love that?
Just come back home. Come home. It'd be nice. But yeah, he's been outstanding this year. So been really great seeing how he's developed. So hopefully we see more of that, but not. And Jacko said it's Tomoko Kiwi. Yeah, he was born in Auckland.
Yeah, sure is. Pick him in the black and white.
Yeah, I think if we actually get to play a Kiwis game, I think he'll definitely be in there. But yeah, fantastic effort. But we'll go on to the next game. Bit boring this one, Richie. Warriors 46 over the Eels 10.
I didn't find it boring at all. 8 tries to 2. Luke Metcalf with 2. Marcelo Montoya with 2. Dill Walker, Mitch Barnett with 2. Dylan Wittenez-Lesniak with his it's just standard at this point. He's Jags at least won a game. 2 tries to the Eels, Bailey Simonson, Sean Lane.
Yeah, sloppy start for the Warriors. They made more errors in this game than they did in the torrential downpour that me and Paul sat through. But once they started to iron out the kinks, they put on a show. It did slow down in the second half a little bit, but the damage was done. At halftime, the game was over. It was all about hopefully seeing them stick out, actually stick to a lead and not let the Eels come back in, which I feel like they did. And you mentioned Dallin's try in the corner. I just want to give credit to the cameraman. That, I think they said he got a black eye. I don't know if that was them just racking it up, but, he got taken out by Dallin, but he got all those pictures from the moment he was diving to the corner to getting knocked over to Dallin picking him up off the ground. He got all of them. So, that was a great effort. But, I thought the Warriors had a good bounce back, but they do need to sort those errors out and go up another level because they got the Sharks and the Raiders in a row, which will be tough, but they are at home at least. But you'll take on the Warriors.
I thought we looked a little over eager out of the gate. So earlier in the match, we were maybe pushing the odd pass that shouldn't have been thrown, leading to our error tally climbing. It didn't deter us, though. I think we stuck to our guns with our attack shapes, and eventually when the passes started sticking, the points started flowing. I thought we got good value off the bench, especially from Dylan Walker. And in the end, it was a really good win and a good hit to the points differential, getting it back up there after taking a hit last weekend.
Yeah, and we're about to talk about the game coming up, but TK's mentioned something I couldn't. I kind of had the same thought as well. So he couldn't believe the Bunnies pumped us and then lost to the Dogs. That was, it was demoralizing, but we'll talk about that one soon. Your take on the Eels?
It's just one of those games. It's really hard to get a read into their performance after that, given that they're missing all of their rep players, and a lot of their rep players are their big gun players, Mitch Moses, Clint Gutherson, guys like that. Like a lot of what the Eels do revolve around those two in particular. But yeah, still, you're still putting it out at NRL level side, and the Warriors can only play what's put out in front of us. So, disappointing for the Eels, I'm sure, but once they get their big guns back, you will see a bounce back, no doubt.
Yeah, you can't help who you're playing against. So I know a lot of people are saying like the Warriors did this, but it was against a lackluster Eels team. It was still a good side, but yeah, they were missing their spine members. And because of that, they had no direction. And I think I was talking to you and Rowan Hammer during the game about it, saying that the Eels were relying on individual brilliance from players. So your Dejan Arcee's, Bailey Simonson, kind of giving them the ball and hoping they would do something, which is something we can relate to as Warriors fans, because we've been a team like that in the past, where you threw the ball to Sean Johnson and said, just make something, do something for us here, because the team can't work together. But yeah, like you just said, once they've got all those guys back, they'll be better for it. So yeah, I thought it was a valiant effort from them, but they were just not good enough, I guess, is the most apt way I can say it. And they looked out of gas. I think the Warriors' tempo that they brought to the game was too much for the Eels.
What pleased me was we've seen earlier in the origin period when we came up against Brisbane with a depleted side, we let that one slip. So we got presented with a weakened Eels team, and we actually put them away well. So that was the most pleasing thing.
Yeah, and before we go into the players to stand out, credit to Warrior Nation and all the Warriors fans that were at that game. Watching a game in that impressive stadium and hearing a Warriors chant in Sydney was just massive. So great turnout for there. I know a lot of people have been giving us Auckland boys stick for not making a lot of noise. To be fair, that last game, no one really wanted to talk. They were too busy focusing on staying alive in the cold. So hopefully this week we can try our best to match what the Aussie fans are doing. So your player to stand out, we have actually picked different here. So
yeah, I went big Mitch Barnett. I thought he was outstanding. He had so much to unpack. But he had some of the extras this week. 2 tries, nearly 200 running meters, a nice big line break, and his standard, all his 1% is his line speed on defense, as he always brings. So I thought it was the complete performance from Big Mitch.
Yeah, great game from him. My review, which I didn't publish this week, but the guy I picked is the player I picked for player of the day, but I had Barnett, Ford, Walker were all in the running, but I went with Luke Metcalf. I thought it was his best game as a Warrior. I dare say his best game in the NRL so far.
Yeah.
He got his double, almost got a triple if he was just a little bit better at his grounding. And he didn't do a lot of kicking, but he did enough so the defense wasn't pressuring Sean as much as they usually do, because they knew there was someone else that would kick. And his passing game was fantastic. Strengthening up that left side attack, which has kind of been a bit not stagnant because Marcelo's still getting his tries, but that right-hand side is where all the danger comes from normally. So to see it opening up and the Warriors actually having some decent attack on both sides is really good. And another comparison I had for him, I see a lot of the upside we saw from Reece Walsh and Metcalf, but without the ego.
Yeah.
I feel like very similar players, but one of them's got an attitude problem and one of them seems just like an honest, good sort kid, which is kind of what Webster's trying to get through with this club anyway. So fantastic effort. And I know we talked about it a few weeks ago about when Tamati Martin's ready, would we just switch them? And I said I was all for Tamati coming straight back in. I'm not as confident anymore. I feel
what a great problem. What a great problem to have.
Fantastic problem. And yeah, Jacko's mentioned that Metcalf missed half the season. He's just growing into the side and has huge upside. Yeah, he's getting back into the group. It feels like he feels confident in his position now, which has made him better. And I think TK has also mentioned that he hopes Metcalf stays with us. I think he's going to stay. I think he's pretty much almost guaranteed that he's going to be a starter with a team that is building and getting better. So why would you leave
He's already
and,
been given his island name too, Luka Mikiafu.
yeah, which is a very funny video that he
It
did.
is.
But yeah, fantastic game, and it was a much needed win for the Warriors. So very happy with that. And now we'll move on to the game that TK's already mentioned. The Bulldogs ruining the multi by defeating the Rabbitohs 36-32.
Yes, what a disappointment. It was 6 tries each. Blake Wilson grabbing 2, Reed Marnie, Jacob Kiraz, Ethan Quay-Ward, and Blake Wilson grabbed 3. Those were the Doggies try scorers. For the Rabbitohs, big Tommy Burgess in his he was captain, so he barged over for first try. Tyrone Munro, Blake Taff with 2. Tyrone Munro grabbed the second as well. Tallis Duncan. They were the try scorers for each side. 6 tries apiece.
Yeah, Bulldogs, they needed a strong effort after that embarrassing game last week, and we got it. They were playing a Rabbits team missing some big names, but the Rabbitohs still showed fight. So good effort from the Bulldogs. Big efforts from Blake Wilson. I thought it was one of Reed Marnie's better games for the Dogs as well. Still a long way to go for this club, but a step in the right direction at least. But yeah, what was your take on the Doggies?
Just really good for them to get the result. They desperately needed the result to stay out of wooden spoon sort of areas. I like the look of Sexton at 7 in his new club. It sort of opened Burton up a bit more, and I prefer Burton as a 6 and having a good solid 7 to control the team. That's not Burton's job. That's not where he flourishes. So I thought it helped the balance of their team a lot.
Yeah, it only took the Bulldogs, over half a season to figure out what everyone could have told them. It was that Burton isn't the organizer, and you need someone to help him out. So congrats on Phil Gould and all the brains there finally figuring out the most obvious thing. But yeah, your take on the Rabbits?
Almost exactly the same as what I was saying for the Eels. They were missing too many of their frontline players to not affect their performance. I was saying, I think, during the game in one of the chats that it would have been nice for the Warriors to come up against them without Cam Murray and Cody Walker and guys like that. But, obviously, when you're in our shoes, if you want to be the best, you have to be the best. But the Dogs hit the jackpot here with the amount of players and the caliber of players that the Rabbitohs were missing. But they cashed in. So, good for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and what was your take on the Rabbits?
That was my take on the Rabbits, sorry.
Oh, come on. Sorry. You confused me with Doggies at the end. So I'll go with the Rabbits then, sorry. The Rabbits went back to that era-riddled team that I've been complaining about all year. They just stopped it when they played us, ironically. But they missed Cody Walker tremendously. Cam Murray is like the top dog there. I think they had a valiant effort though. They almost stole it in the final 10 with their little flourish of tries. They just need to reduce those errors. I think they reduce those errors, they get this win. As simple as that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And your player to stand out, there's a lot of talk about him in the chat, so I'll let you go with it here.
Yeah, I already mentioned him, but Toby Sexton, a lot of Sexton appeal for the Doggies, like Rob says. he just what he does for the balance of their team. Like we said, Matt Burton's not a 7. He performs best when he's got someone doing that job, like what Toby Sexton did on the weekend, and it really helped them get the result.
Yeah, I went the opposite. I went with Burton, but I think it's for the same reason. Because Sexton did such a great job at what he's meant to do, it allowed Burton to do what he does best. So I thought it was one of Burton's better games for them in some time because he had the freedom. So, different players, but picked for basically the same reason. Going to the last game, the Dolphins defeating the Titans 23-21 and letting me, spoilers ahead, get one step closer to Simon on the tips. Since you guys didn't. Oh, did you pick Dolphins? You did, eh? Yeah.
I did, mate, but yeah, I pick other teams wrong, so don't. Hey, Paul.
You're supposed to be doing teasers, not spoilers. You should say, "Oh, the gap changed in the thing. Wait later till I tell you who
Sorry,
who called away or whatever."
Sorry, I'm doing my best here this week. All right.
I can see myself just falling further behind these two. Just I'm in a position where I have to pick silly picks to try and catch up. So,
and we're teasing that because we're going to show that later.
Yeah.
Here we go. So yeah, rundown for the scores, please.
23-21, Dolphins take the result. 4 tries to 3, Connolly, Lemuelu, Jared Wallace, Kenny Bromwich, Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. And for the Titans, Kieran Foran, Philip Sami, Brian Kelly were the 3 try scorers.
Yeah, Dolphins had to dig deep here. A tough clash with some big efforts across the park. Looked like they sealed the win in regular time, but they didn't drop their heads when the Titans forced it to Golden Point. I thought that would have been the right time for the Dolphins to just mentally fall apart. But they didn't. Once they got into Golden Point, they played pretty much error-free football and nailed the chance they got from a ballsy call from the ref, which I thought was the right call, but you don't see that call made in Golden Point very often. But yeah, fantastic effort from the Dolphins. I thought they did very well here, and was Rob said, an entertaining game. Yeah, I thought it was a thoroughly entertaining game, but like he said there, shows that I don't think these teams are top 8 material, but a hell of a battle.
Yeah, I thought this performance from the Dolphins was throwing back to the gritty ways we saw from them earlier in the year. Despite being down 14-6 at the half, it was a handy little lead to the Titans, but they did a great job to come back and steal the result in Golden Point. I echo your thoughts. I thought the call in Golden Point was correct. You just never ever see that called. Every time you go to Golden Point, all the defenders are offside from a field goal attempt. Finally, somebody called it correctly.
Yeah, and your take on the Titans?
I didn't think it was a bad performance from the Titans, given that they were missing their origin players, Tino, Fotueka, Brimson, normally very big performers for them. I thought the remaining players, particularly Foran and Jaden Campbell, put in good shifts. So could have gone either way. Just that Dolphins grit got them over.
Yeah, I thought the Titans played well. Without Fafita and Big Tino up front, I thought their forwards did front up, and their attacks always dangerous, as we know. Better defense may have got them the win in regular time, and better discipline in Golden Point may have proved the difference. But overall, not a terrible effort. I'm sure they're absolutely gutted they got the loss here, but it's not like they got spanked. Here. So yeah, not a bad effort, but your player to stand out.
I actually chose somebody out of the losing side, Jaden Campbell. Thought he came up with a number of big plays, over 300 running meters. He was one of the players in the Titans that really stood up. Yeah,
I went with Jermaine Isako. I think the rebuilding of his career since he's come to the Dolphins has been fantastic. But in here, he only got 50% of his conversions from the tries, but then he nailed that field goal to get them 1 point ahead. And then, it was admittedly right in front of the sticks for the Golden Point, but that's a lot of pressure to put on someone. And he did what he needed to be done. But I think it's been a fantastic year for him across the board, not just with the boat.
Massively.
So, yeah, well done to him. So that's the round, nice and short. Damn you, Rabbitohs. So we may as well go to the ladder. I think you did top 8 last week, so I'll take it off you this week.
Yep.
So still in first place is Penrith with 28 points. Broncos also on 28 points at second. Cronulla at 26 points at third, tied with Melbourne and the Raiders at fourth and fifth. Then we've got the Warriors, the only team on 24 at sixth. Then we've got three teams on 22, but two of them in the top eight, which is the Eels at seventh and the Rabbitohs at eighth.
The bottom nine shapes up like this. North Queensland stay in ninth position. Manly leapfrog Gold Coast from 11th into 10th with their bye. So Gold Coast dropped to 11th. Dolphins, the rest stay as they were the previous week. Dolphins 12th. Roosters 13th. Newcastle Knights 14th. Bulldogs 15th. St. George Illawarra Dragons 16th. West Tigers dead last.
You don't have to put so much stank on it. Dragons will take that spot back when they lose to the Tigers in a couple of rounds. So I see there's questions about that, but we're about to hit questions, so we'll wait. If you wanted to bring up the picks, Paul. So Simon got 3 out of 5, leading with 89 out of 141. And then I got 4 out of 5. That Rabbitohs game, the only one I got wrong. Those bastards. So I'm 86 out of 141, only 3 behind Paul, Simon now. And then you, Richie, you got 3 out of 5. You're now 4 behind me at the very bottom, 82 out of 141.
Damn.
We're still around 50%, but
yeah,
we get in there. So that was it. So we'll go to questions. I see Paul start a few of them in the background here for us. So I'll let you start first, Paul.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's around the table, isn't it? So let's go back to. So I'll bring the table back up for those of you. Obviously, you've heard it if you're on the podcast listening. But if you want to watch it, don't forget you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, either the New Zealand Sports Radio or Brad Inger's pages on Facebook, or also on Twitter at Driving More. So first off, then, guys, Salai says, "Do you reckon the Cowboys make the 8 with their late incursion?"
Do you want me to take that, Brad?
You take it first.
I think they have every chance. The way they're trending with their form, they're trending in the right direction. We actually touched on it last week with our questions. Who I think it was your question to me, Brad, who we could see dipping out and who we could see climbing up.
Yeah.
I was a bit hard on the Warriors last week. I think my confidence has been restored. But I did say Raiders, and actually looking at some of the upcoming fixtures, I think Cronulla are playing quite a few top 8 sides, which they struggle with the comp as tight as it is. It wouldn't surprise me if they drop down towards the edge of the 8.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, Cowboys come in, Rabbitohs go out. Bada boom. Which is answering Rob's question of who drops out. Rabbits, they can't hold on to the ball unless they're playing the bloody Warriors. So they don't play us again. So I think, someone he said the Raiders will drop out. Yeah,
so Raiders, Sharks, Rabbits. Wow. On your comment about the Rabbits, looking at the official NRL website, they have got odds as to who is going to win at the whole thing, but by an Australian website, and they currently have the Rabbits as third favourites to win the thing overall, with
always.
The Panthers
Always
and
that way.
Broncos. Panthers and Broncos 1 and 2, but Rabbits are third favourites, even though they are sat there in 8th. Interesting, I thought.
I think Rabbits have a bye this week, and then the week after they get all their good players back, don't they? Latrell Mitchell's back, all their Origin players are back.
Yep.
From there, they'll be tough to beat.
Don't bring knowledge and research into this.
A whole bunch of stuff.
Just picking the team that last beat us.
Looking at the odds as well, the team with the longest odds in the top 8 are the Raiders at $38 over in Australia. So there you go. So clearly the bookmakers think that the Raiders are the most likely to, or are the weakest, or have the hardest run in out of that top crowd.
Seeing them drop out will make one of my predictions better, though, Paul. If we revert back to our prediction show, I said the top 8 would be the exact same as last year, with the only team that was in the top 8 last year missing out would be the Raiders. Completely wrong on that so far. But if the Raiders drop out, at least I got that part of it right. But yeah.
Ken says, I think it's a great result for the Warriors. I don't think the Dolphins will make the 8, but he reckons the Titans could sneak in. So on that kind of line, or on that kind of comment, where is the line now as to where you think the top 8 teams are going to come from? Is it just the Cowboys? Is that line under number 9 now, and everyone below the Cowboys aren't going to make it? Or where do you put that line?
I could go with him and say Titans up. Titans are on the same points as the Dolphins and the Roosters, but I don't see the Dolphins and Roosters doing that well. The Titans are still a team that might get a win or two here. Rob's saying he would say below the Knights. That's true too, because the Knights are only 1 point behind that, and they're only 3 points out. Do my maths quick. 3 points out of the 8 right now. So there's still a chance. It all depends on the draw. It's great when it's so tight, but yeah, like Jacko's just mentioned, the Cowboys are the only team outside the 8 that have the talent to make a run. They are, to be honest, out of those teams, they're the only ones I would say I can consistently see them nailing wins. Where Manly, Titans, Dolphins, and all that, you say they'll get a win or two here or there, but I feel like they're going to be losing more than winning, which is just how it is. With how tight it is this year, a loss can send you down. You look at the Warriors, we lost to the Rabbits and we were on the verge of not being in the 8 anymore. We beat the Eels and we're on the verge of being near the top 4 again. It's just all in the space of 1 week. Yeah, and like Rob said, it might be like 2018 where there was 2 points between 1st and 8th. Yeah.
Yep. What I would say is looking at the odds on the NRL's official website. The longest odds out of the top 9 are the Raiders at $38. Everybody from the Eagles down are over $100. So it looks like from a sports betting point of view, that the line is there at under the Cowboys, and that the teams below the Cowboys are significantly weaker or have bad run-ins or in a bad position compared to that top 9. So it looks like the top 9 there really from that point of view. Jacko, let's get your comment on Crawley, who said that he predicted the Warriors to finish 2nd in the table. What are your thoughts on that? Are the Warriors basically looking upwards rather than downwards? Obviously, I think we're all expecting a top 8 finish, but are we talking about? Are we now expecting a top 4, top 2 even finish?
Oh, if we got the 2nd place, I'd be over the moon, because that would succeed in my top 4 bet that I put on. So I think top 4 is still a possibility. I'd be more confident if they had beaten the Rabbitohs last week. If they beat the Sharks this week, beat the Raiders next week, I'd say top 4 is definitely a possibility, because after the Raiders, I know there's no such thing as an easy game in the NRL unless you're playing the Dragons, but they've got a decent run after that Raiders game. A lot of New Zealand games and a lot of teams below them on the ladder. So it's all about the next 2 weeks.
So it goes Sharks at home, Raiders at home, away to the Titans, away to the Tigers, Eagles at home, Dragons at home, away to the Dolphins. Is the run-in for the Warriors.
And that away game for the Tigers is in Hamilton. So it's a lot of games in New Zealand against teams that they should beat very easily. The next 2 weeks, if they get 2 out of
folks, we're going to have to clip that bit there, because that's they should beat very easily. I mean, the tone from Brad from compared to 6 months ago is just it's amazing.
It's different.
He tipped us to come 10th.
Yeah, which if they let these games slip, they could end up 10th.
So did I. I'm not going to lie.
yeah, it's completely different from the beginning of the season, Paul. But you've been here for basically the entire existence of this show. We've watched the Warriors do nothing but disappoint us. So confidence coming into this year.
But wrong. It's nice to hear.
Yeah, but yeah, I think
it's also nice to hear that Richie can't mute himself when he's blowing his nose.
Sorry,
but never mind.
A little under the weather.
That's the professionalism we have here. Yeah, if they win the next 2 games, top 2 is a chance. I don't know. I feel like Penrith and Brisbane have kind of got that locked down. But definitely top 4. You know, Ken saying I'm a massive Dragons fan, I just won't admit it. But yeah, I've got the Dragons logo tattooed on me and everything. I love that team.
That's right, Ken. He does protest too much, sir.
Yeah. I just have an opportunity to rail on a team I don't like all the time, so I will. And yeah, we're going to we need to play that grinding style like how we played against the Raiders. Probably my favorite game of the season. Yeah, that's what works, and that's what the Warriors need to keep doing. Every time we've had a game where we talk about the Warriors not doing so well, they've gone away from that style. And TK said, big ups to the Tigers, only club who thanked us for the sacrifice and brought one of their games here. The only one. That's correct. The only bad thing about it, TK, is when they interviewed Tim Sheens, instead of reading the room and just saying we wanted to thank the Warriors, he said, I didn't want to do it. It wasn't my decision, which kind of deflated the gesture. So it's a thank you to the club. Maybe it's not what he would have done. But yeah, the fact, one of the teams that are struggling the most, that really isn't helping them out by taking their game to New Zealand when they really need to get home and have home field advantage if they can. The fact that they're the only ones that did it is a huge thing. I'm surprised that more didn't, but you know, we could go on forever about how we are second-class citizens in this competition. But yeah, any other questions from anyone else before I jump off my soapbox?
No, I'll make one comment about the Cowboys. We've talked a few things about them being in form. They're the only team. So their form guide for the last 5 games is 4-0, or last 5 rounds. So they had a bye in there as well. So 4 wins, no loss in the last 5 rounds. Yeah, as you say, Cowboys trending in the right direction. And I'll leave you guys to ask each other your own questions.
Yeah, cheers, Paul. We'll go with your one first.
Yep. Having watched the current Warriors lineup perform so well, who for you, Brad, is straight back into the side, and who misses selection once all of our troops are back on board?
It kind of flows in with RD's comment there. So I'll read his and then I'll give you mine, because he's talking about the guy that's straight in for me. He said, injuries going to affect plenty of other teams more than us, but friggin' suspension's another story. Top 4 got to be in our sights, but what does Nakore have to do to stop getting suspended? He's too valuable not to play. He's getting it rough from officials, in my opinion. His latest was on Sully, and in my opinion, who dipped late when Murata was driving up. Admit I'm biased. Murata is the guy right now that I'd bring straight back in. What does he have to do to stop being suspended? We've got to talk to the CEO of One New Zealand and see if he can give the refs some money to stop these rubbish calls. It's a bit like what we said about the Tane Milne one. The last one Murata got suspended for, he probably wouldn't have been suspended if Sully didn't get knocked for 6. It was just a combination of him coming up too much, him coming down. I don't know. And Rob said he would bring Ali in for the centres. I still don't know when Ali's back. On the injury report, he's just got indefinite. But yeah, the only other one I would have said in the past was Tamari Martin, but I wouldn't bring Tamari in for Luke Metcalf right now. So out of everyone, it would be Murata. And to drop... right now, I'd be dropping Bunty. I'd move Mitch Barnett into the front row, Murata into the second row, Curran back to the bench.
What about Jazz Tavanga?
Jazz, when he comes back, replacing Bailey Saranen.
Yeah, great problems.
Yeah, it's much better to have.
Isn't Jazz the who Brad's girlfriend had was rather taken by it the game? So I think maybe Jazz he wants to have out the club.
No, that was Valia, who is probably going to be out of the club. He probably will be out of the club sooner rather than later. But yes, it's always a battle. My lovely partner always seems to fall in love with a new Warriors player every week. And yeah, Jacko said Jazz takes Suriname for sure. Yeah, it's a like for like for me. I feel like they fill the same role. Jazz just does it better. And TK said he cringed hearing Brandy and Blocker praising our team. Hope to catch up with me on Sunday. Yeah, you know where I am all the time. I'll be there. So yeah, hopefully get to catch up with you, TK. And yeah, it's horrible hearing Blocker do it. Brandy, I don't mind as much because you could hear it through gritted teeth. Where Blocker, I feel like Blocker doesn't know what's going on half the time. He really lets front rowers down. And Strix Line Red, that's the only one they got there. Richie knows that that's not my drink, but I drink what's available.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a long way.
They got Panhandle. They got all sorts of your beer. Okay, your drink at
Woofter is Lime. They're Woofter beers, all those fancy ones. The fancier you get, the less beery it is, you know. So
strongly disagree.
Well, you would.
And we'll be forcing Brad to wear rainbow laces the rest of the week.
And did you have a player there? I kind of railroaded your question and took it over.
No. Very similar. Nia Kore straight back in. Jazz Tavanga I would bring in for Saranen. Other than that, it's almost status quo. Keep the form team.
Yeah. I would love to see Ali back in to replace Berry or even Brady Willamy. Just because I feel like they would be better options, but we just don't know what's going on with them right now. But my question for you, the final Origin match is tonight. It's actually not that far away. And many across the ditch are still claiming that it's the pinnacle of rugby league. Do you think that's still the case?
Unfortunately, I think it is. Not mainly because of how little priority Test match footy's given. They still put Origin up on the pedestal to the detriment of Test match footy. It's an afterthought. I'd love that to be the pinnacle, but it's simply not because there's just not enough matches for it to be so. So I think if you're looking at the quality of footy, I think pinnacle is still Origin. I would love more light to be shone on Test match footy, though. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it's the pinnacle anymore. To be honest, the last two Origin games we watched felt like NRL games to me.
Really?
Yeah, we're watching the Roosters play Brisbane, effectively in different jerseys. Probably the same level because of how good Queensland's going and how rubbish New South Wales, comparing to how good Brisbane are going and how good the Roosters are going. You know, it's about the same. Jacko's kind of said, he's sick of Aussie Junos claiming the best 34 players on the planet play Origin.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason I don't think it's as good, like Jacko said, it's not what it used to be. It's just a very good NRL game, is I feel that the Australians aren't the best at the game anymore. There are still good players, don't get me wrong, but
they won the World Cup.
Yeah, shut up, Richard. But not all the best players are Origin players anymore. Like, you've got guys like Joey Manu, James Fisher-Harris, all the Kiwis and Island boys that, the Island boys that aren't allowed to play Origin for some reason when others are. I feel there's like a lot of that missing, which takes away from the spectacle. But I'm not feeling as strong about it because I'm not an Aussie. So it's biased from my point of view. But yeah, because of that pre-notioned bias of it being the pinnacle. That's why we're not seeing all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Where, everyone says it every year, like, oh, Origin's just not what it used to be. So eventually that shine's got to come off, right?
Hope so.
But it makes money.
Yeah, it does. That's
why it's
the money
pinnacle.
maker.
It makes money. So yeah, great questions. We may as well go into round 20, starting with we'll do our quick rundown of the Warriors Sharks this week. So as always, I let you say the Warriors team.
Thank you, sir. Fullback CNK, wingers Dylan Martinez, Lesniak, Marcelo Montoya. Centres Rocco Berry, Adam Pompey. Halves Luke Metcalf, Sean Johnson, the same backline. That's been the past few weeks. Forward pack Adam Fanor-Blake, Wade Egan, Mitch Barnett, front row. Jackson Ford, Josh Curran returns. They're the edge back rowers. And Tohu Harris, lock and captain. Interchange bench, Freddie Lussick, Bailey Sirenen, Tom Ale, Dylan Walker. That remains the same as well.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to what it's been the last few weeks, to be fair.
Yeah.
Just with
pretty
I think Bunty's out with 11-day stand down, which I forgot to put in the injuries.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Sharks, we've got Will Kennedy at fullback. Then we've got the wingers. We've got Sione Katoa and my preseason predicted leading try scorer, Mulitalo. Centers, we've got Jesse Ramian and Talakai. Halves, we've got Matt Moylan and Nico Hines. Their front row, we've got Oregon Kafusi, Blake Brayley, and Toby Rudolph. Second row, we've got Brighton Nakora and Teague Wilton. Then we've got Cam McInnes at lock with Wade Graham, Thomas Hazelton, Jack Williams, and Jesse Kolokho. I don't know how to say that name. On the interchange. So what do you think about the team? Before we go, how are the Sharks feeling that Matt Moylan's their six when they could have Luke Metcalf? But yeah, what do you take here? I think they're both good sides. I think the Warriors side looks better. I am concerned about the centers though. Berry and Pompey against Ramian and Talakai. Pompey does seem to step up when he's up against big centers, so I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about Pompey defensively. I think he always tends to do a job against big opposition, like you said. They both look like good sides on paper. I'm hoping home ground advantage plays a part here. I'm hoping the rain stays as far away as it can. I haven't looked at the forecast.
It's beautiful weather because Paul's not coming.
Okay.
I told him that before we went live. It looks good, but it's Auckland, so it's saying it looks good now. It could be hail for all we know by the time Sunday comes around. Fingers crossed not, because I'm really over getting wet at these games.
I bet you are. I'm liking the consistency in our selection. Happy that Josh Curran's back to take one of those edge back row positions. I'm going to tip us in a close one. Sharks look dangerous, but yeah, we got them over there at Shark Park earlier in the year. I'm picking we get them here at Go Media as well.
Yeah, I've picked them as well. I'll pick the Warriors. I just think we're on a roll, and it's as long as that weather's fine. If there starts to be drizzle, I might be a bit more concerned.
Sean Johnson potentially could be a late scratching, depending on baby news. That's the only thing that might throw some doubt in my mind.
Yeah. So what I would do in that situation is Zion Mayu I would bring into the team, and Adam Fanor-Blake I'd move into the halves. Because it's about time the Warriors were the gutsy team and put a front rower in the halves, which is the only logical option. Now, obviously, if that happens, I think Volkman will come in, like we discussed last week when we thought that Sean would be out. I'm a bit more confident now with Metcalf. I was a bit iffy about Metcalf and Volkman together, but I think, the way Metcalf is going, if he can continue that form, I think he'll be fine. Be a tough match. I'm not going into this as cocky as I was for the Rabbitohs game. I've learnt my lesson, but I think they're in a good position, a decent crowd. Hopefully the All Blacks haven't ruined the field the night before. But it should be good. Should be a good game. And yeah, Warriors. Paul, you've got Simon's pick. Who do you go with?
Yep, also going with the Warriors as well. I think
Nice.
with that one. So that kicks off our multi with our first all agreed one there. So yeah, and with the Warriors heading up towards the second place apparently, then obviously they need to do. They said these next 2 weeks are the important ones.
I don't like agreeing with Crawley because I think he's off the mark so often. But
Yeah.
I'll go with him if he's back in my team. So we'll go into the rest of the round, round 20. First game up, we had, thank you, we don't have the pretty picture because of Origin, so NRL forgets that they have their own competition. But first up on Friday, we've got Knights and Tigers. I've gone with the Knights. I've already said I don't see the Tigers. I think Tigers are only going to beat the Dragons in the last lot of games. So I've got to go with the Knights.
Yeah, I've got Knights as well.
Looking at the form line, the Tigers have lost their last 5 games. In Simon's stead, we're going with the Knights.
Nice. And then the next game on Saturday, the Saturday triple header, we've got Bulldogs Broncos. I've gone with Broncos. Bulldogs surprised us all. I don't think they can surprise us 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, agreed. Broncos should be too hot for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and that's the only win they've had. The Bulldogs had in the last 5 games. The horses are going to trample all over the Dogs.
The next game on Saturday, we've got Seagulls versus Cowboys. I've gone with the Cowboys. I think they're still on a roll, and I'm still not confident in the Seagulls without Tommy Turbo.
I'm going to pick Manly at Brookvale, just because I need to catch up. I don't believe that they will win, but there you go. Manly.
10th hosting 9th, and obviously 9th on that 4-game winning streak. No, look, it's at home. Sea Eagles at home to swoop in and take it off the Cowboys.
Ooh.
Sweet. So I'm going to catch up again. Nice. Next final game on Saturday, Roosters versus Storm. Storm. For me, Roosters, I've got no confidence in them at all.
Yeah, they're playing too poorly to even at home. I think the Storm get that one.
Yeah, look, I mean, Roosters down in 13th, but look, the Storm, 3 wins, 2 losses in the last 5 games. They're not running that great at the moment, but still, I'm going to back the Storm. Or Simon's going to back the Storm as well on that one.
Yeah, and then next game was the Warriors Sharks, which we've already talked about. All 3 hitting the Warriors there. Second game on Sunday is the Dolphins Panthers. I've gone with the Panthers. I know they're probably gonna rest some Origin players as they normally do, but they might play them because it's a Sunday. But they seem to do all right without their players. And the Dolphins, I think the grind's going to be too much.
Yeah, it's Panthers. It's just too hard to pick against them.
The Dolphins one win out the last 5 games, last 5 rounds, so 1-4. Look, the Cinderella story is over, unfortunately, and they're in free fall. So, Panthers it is.
Panthers.
Oh, no, what am I saying? No, sorry, I've got misrepresented it. Sorry, Simon's gone with Dolphins. Oh, my God.
Wow.
How did he do that?
Ooh.
Wow.
So Dolphins,
jeez,
knowing what Simon's like, that means Dolphins are going to get this.
Bloody hell. Dolphins, I just assumed, looking at the, but no, Simon's gone with Dolphins. Sorry,
Yeah,
wow.
That's a big pick. Wow.
Big call. So that means Dolphins going to get this because Simon always picks these ones and gets them right. So, Dolphins. Well done.
They have been good at home. They have obviously they've been the Cinderella story. They've been a good story this year. At home, they're the Dolphins 4 wins, 4 losses. So
we need to stop the Cinderella story rubbish. All right, the Warriors are the Cinderella story. The Dolphins aren't even going to play finals football. No Cinderella story. They're more the ugly stepsister.
Oh, look, for an expansion franchise to not finish bottom is pretty good. And they had a great start to the season, let's be honest.
They did.
Like, no one was saying that about the Warriors in '95 when we didn't finish bottom. Come on, get off the Dolphins train, Paul.
Hey, if I'd been here,
you would have said it.
If I'd been here, yeah.
And then final game,
Go.
Eels Titans. I've gone with the Eels. Eels know how to attack. Titans don't know how to defend. Kind of seems like a match made in heaven for the Eels.
I'm going the other way. Another need to
Titans.
catch up. Another need to catch up call, that one.
See, my approach is always just pick who I think's going to win. It seems to work for me, but yeah,
there's always one or two upsets per round, so
exactly.
Just got to pick which one.
And then who was Simon gone with, Paul?
The Eels. Look, this is the nail in the Titans' coffin as far as the top 8 is concerned. I think.
So I think that gives us 4 for the multi. We've agreed on 4 out of 7.
Yep. I will just bring up the multi now.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, Simon's comment about the Warriors, unfortunately, they missed the finals because they had too many players on the field and were deducted points. It was Joe Vunga's fault. But he was the player. It's not really his fault. Yeah, so there we go. We got the Knights, the Warriors, the Broncos, and the Storm, and our 4-game multi. Surely we'll get it this week.
Surely.
You'll know when we announce the show next week if we finally get the multi or something as the show title. But hopefully it feels like an easy enough to predict round, but I think I've said that multiple times this year.
We have, yeah.
So we've done it for 14 rounds. Okay, so we're $28 down. This makes us $30 down now, and we get 11 back. So we're still going to be way down, even if we do win this one. So yes, there we go.
Yeah, all right, we'll get there eventually.
Actually, I am going to be way down on your picks.
Yeah, but you got to remember, I do the same multi with my own money, trying to help out. So I'm losing more because I do like $5 a pop.
I think you just need to subscribe to the Patreon, Brad. That's your contribution.
Instead of gambling my life away.
We are definitely going to lose money again. Sorry, I think we're definitely going to lose money again. It's not we, Simon. It's me. I think you want to be saying, I think you're definitely going to be losing money.
We're definitely going to lose Paul's money again.
We're all shareholders on this, Paul. We're making the decisions. So you're just Mr. Moneybags at the end paying the bill. So that's the NRL, which means that Jacko is probably going to abandon us because we're going into Super League quickly. So cheers for joining us again, Jacko. But Catalans remain at the top of the table, Richie, with 26 points despite losing this round.
Yep.
Lee stays second, but St. Helens moves to third with Wigan falling to fourth after their defeat to Wakefield, which is the struggling club.
Happen? How did that happen?
I don't know. It's the struggling club's third win of the year, and they're now only 2 points away from Castleford at the bottom of the ladder. So there is still potentially a chance that Wakefield don't end last, which is crazy when you think they went, I think it was 12 or 13 losses before their first win. But yeah, beating Wigan is a massive scalp. When you think they also beat Leeds. So out of their 3 wins, they've beaten Leeds, Wigan. I can't remember the other one they beat off the top of my head. But congrats on Wakefield. They've kind of been our Super League story all year. But yeah, round 18's all done and dusted there. Wakefield, as we just said, defeated Wigan 27-26. Lee defeated Castleford 34-16. St. Helens defeated Warrington 24-20. Uddersfield defeated Catalans 22-14. Hull FC defeated Hull KR 16-6. And then Leeds defeated Salford 16-14. And yeah, Simon's mentioned Leeds is kind of a local derby for Wakefield. But yeah, fantastic effort. Very unfortunate they beat my Super League team. But yeah, I do like seeing them getting some wins. But yeah, round 19, Richie, we got St. Helens versus Catalans, Uddersfield versus Wakefield, Leeds versus Hull KR, Wigan versus Warrington, Hull FC versus Castleford, and Salford versus Lee. So maybe Wakefield get their fourth by beating Uddersfield. But some good matches in there. St. Helens versus Catalans and Wigan versus Warrington should be some barnstorming ones.
Yep.
But anything else you want to add before we go? Oh, sorry. Paul's already talked about picks, but Simon sent one through I saw about Queensland. He's picked Queensland. So why are you picking Queensland too?
Yeah, mate. Queensland first clean sweep since 2010. Unfortunately.
The first time on the show, Paul, that everyone who's picked Origin has picked Queensland every week. So yeah, fantastic. We might all end up with 3 out of 3 at the end. Yeah,
the bet's gone on since you've all chosen it. Thank you, guys.
Nice.
Well done.
Nice.
The same one.
Yep.
What if you disagree to save me some money? I mean, come on.
Hey, at least it wasn't 8 out of 8. Which is what I do on my multi. I do my picks, so I do all 7 or 8 every week. So yeah, anything else you guys want to add?
I just took my little GIF I've just found.
How did Wigan lose? How?
I don't know.
I'd just like to say thanks for the chat, everyone. Nice to see a couple of new faces in tonight, and let's go New South Wales.
I don't see that happening for you though, Richie. But everyone loves a dreamer.
Yeah.
But
let's go the Warriors. Let's go the Warriors.
Don't care about that Origin stuff, all right? Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight and joining us on the Stand Up with Brad and Richie. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. here on Facebook, YouTube, or at your convenience on Spotify, Radio, and all those places. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers for joining me again, Richie, and cheers to Paul for all your help in the background. And good night, everyone.